Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I want to make my very first What's in Bloom video. I never did this in the past because I never really had much in bloom, because my entire collection is still quite new, so nothing is reflowering yet. And to top that off, I just don't have quite that many orchids yet, so that I don't always have something in bloom. But this month, largely because I bought quite a few orchids, I have quite a lot in bloom, and I figured I'd make my very first What's in Bloom video and share all these beautiful flowers with you. So keep in mind, most of these are not my reblooms, I can't take credit for them. The only one I think that's currently in bloom, yes, the only one that's currently in bloom that I can take credit for is this one right here, this orange one. So why don't we start with that? This is the Procatavola Golden Peacock, although that's not quite what the label says. The label says LBL Golden Peak, and I don't know why it says that. I can't find anything on that name. I'm pretty sure, also by the way it looks at it, is the Procatavola Golden Peacock. So that's what I'm just going to call it. Now I've already actually made a full video on these flowers because it was my very first rebloom ever and I was super excited and I had to show you guys. Back then when I showed it to you, I think this bud was still unopened, this flower. But you can see it's now opened. Something damaged the top of the... That's the dorsal sepal over here. I'm not quite sure what happened. The main difference I want to show you now, and I'll have the previous video up on the screen somewhere so you can compare, is that the color has changed. So it began with this kind of golden yellow and a bit of like an old faded orange. And now it has turned into this really deep and saturated orange. Like the color you see on screen, I think is quite similar to what I see in real life. It's very saturated and very orange. And I like it even better. I like this a lot better than the golden yellow I had before. So I'm still super pleased with it. The one thing I would try to improve next time is the direction of the blooms, because as you can see, they're facing in this direction. And that means that all of these leaves are in the way of the display. So there's no real nice way for me to display all three flowers at the same time. It would have been vastly better if I had it facing in this direction. But that's something to learn for next time. For now I'm just stoked that I actually managed to make an orchid flower on its own. So that's my first bloom. So the next orchid I want to show you is the bellina. I bought this one as a celebration when I heard that I was given work, when I got accepted for my job. So this one has been in bloom for a while, but it's still quite new. I think it's about 2 months old in my collection now. And it's been blooming for quite a while. I think this is its 4th bloom. And this one here, the 3rd one, is now slowly fading. You can see it starts to yellow and become a little bit more, well, a little bit more yellow-green rather than the white we have here. And people always tell me that it's supposed to smell kind of sweet and fruity, almost like Fruit Loops. But I haven't noticed that. I was also told that they would smell more like fruits and Fruit Loops when they're young, the blooms, like this one. But I don't really notice that much of a difference. To me, it just smells very planty. The thing I keep likening it to is green tea. And it's not an unpleasant smell at all. It's pretty like a warm smell. It's always strange to describe smells. I never quite know what words to use. But to me, it feels like a warm smell. It really does remind me of green tea. And that's pretty nice in and of itself. So I'm very pleased with this orchid so far. It's been adapting really well. It's also, here you can see there's a really big new bud here. It's going to open pretty soon, I think. And there's another over here as well. So all in all, this orchid is doing fantastically, and I think it will be in bloom for quite a while longer despite the fact that the summer is over. Next I want to show you a sibling of the bellina, or well, a progeny of the bellina, which is the Phalaenopsis Samera. And so far I really do love the Samera. This is the orchid I got from Annabelle, and she gave it to me because I found my job. She gave it to me as a congratulations. And since then, since I got it, it's been in bloom. This was bloom number 2. It came with one in the box. This is the 2nd one, and this was the 3rd one. And the one it came with in the box had not opened completely. It was kind of cupped, and it stayed that way, presumably because it stayed in the box for too long. And the 2nd one that opened, this one, which is now withering, I was slightly too slow in filming this. This one was open fully, and it had its proper flower shape, which is reflected in this bloom as well. And then the 3rd one that opened, this one, had again this flower shape, so this seems to be the flower shape that it actually, uses. But it's bigger than the 2nd one, which I take to be as a very good sign. I think that means it's getting used to my environment, it enjoys the medium it's in, and is getting sufficient energy to put into larger blooms and creating new buds, because it's also making new buds. See, there's one right over here and another one back here. And beyond that, it's also making new roots. So this one's doing swimmingly. It's champion, it really is. I like this one especially not just because it's doing so well and the blooms are so pretty. It smells delicious. So when you have a Violacea, you have this really kind of intense cinnamon smell. At least one of the orchids I have that I think is a Violacea has that, and it's actually a no ID, so I don't know for sure. But this one seems to have the traits of both the bellina and the Violacea, where it has this kind of really floral cinnamony smell. It makes it really round and soft, the smell, if that makes sense. And it's, I think, my favorite fragrance in the collection so far. I really, really like it. And then up next is another orchid I got in the same haul as the bellina. There we go. This was a no ID that I bought in that same haul, and it's, I think it might be a KS Happy Eagle, but I'm really not sure about that. That's just what it looked like to me. And it's been struggling a bit. It's not doing as well as the bellina at all. Although the leaves are still sturgid, it doesn't just, the roots aren't doing as well. And as you can see, the flowers aren't opening fully. It's a bit cupped. Now, I'm not sure whether this is the proper flower shape that it always has, or if it's not opening fully because it's not as energetic, not getting as much energy as it would like. And I think I won't find out until next year's flowering, because it just needs to recover this plant. It's just not doing as well. But the colors remain intense. I really like the yellow, and then the little bit of green here wasn't there at the previous flowering actually, so that's new. But the red here is just as intense as before. And it smells really interesting. So when this flower first opens, it smells kind of sharp. It's this citrusy scent, but also cinnamony and also kind of floral, and it's just really sharp and actually kind of unpleasant. But then when the flower matures a bit more, and it's been open for a week or so, it rounds off and it becomes really perfumey and quite nice. So I'm still quite happy with this plant. And the odd thing about it, which I'm also attributing to it not having enough energy actually, is it takes forever to open its buds. Like this bud here has been opening for I think about 3 or 4 days, and it's still not, well, as you can see, it's still not fully open. The dorsal sepal takes forever to fold open. But yeah, I was actually waiting to do the What's in Bloom until this one opened fully as well. But then I saw that the bellina started to wither and the Samera had already started to wither, so I decided no more waiting. So that's my no ID, which looks like a KS Happy Eagle. The next one is the Phalaenopsis Valentinii, which is, oh, I always forget what kind of cross that is. The Phalaenopsis Violacea variation Sumatra crossed with the Corner Survey variation Red. And I always find this one a little bit awkward to film because it makes very long flower spikes. Like, I think this is like, I think it might be 30 centimeters or something. Wait, I'm going to get my measuring tape and find out. Let's see. Hey, look at that. Good estimate. It really is about 30 centimeters tall. So that makes it a little bit awkward to film, especially because my tripod isn't that large, so I can only stand it on the table. If I move it further back, then it doesn't reach high enough to reach my shelf. So, you know, all of this kind of stuff will change when I move, and it'll hopefully be easier to film there. But for now, you can see the full like range of the display here. It's a bit of a sprawling display. We have 3 different flower spikes in bloom. One of them has 2 blooms right now. And this one here has only 1 and it's forming a new bud. And this one also has 1 with a new bud that's coming along very nicely. And in fact it has a 4th flower spike. Let's see if I can show it to you. Right here. That's coming along quite nicely as well. So I might have that one in flower at some point as well, and then I have 4 flower spikes. But judging from how long these flower spikes can get, it will just remain a really big sprawling display and won't become nice and clustered at any point. But let's take you in closer to see what these flowers actually look like. There we go. So the color you see on the screen here, again, I think is pretty similar to what I see in real life. It's a very dark maroon red. It's almost purplish actually. And it's extremely glossy, which is what attracted me to it in the first place. And you can see, I hope it shows up properly on the camera, if I make it catch the light, the bottom of the lateral sepals is a slightly different color. It's less red and more pinkish or purplish. Maybe this one shows it better. See, you can really see over here how there's a difference between the two halves of the lateral sepals. But it is a little bit difficult to show, honestly, because the difference is not very large and the camera picks up reds a little bit strangely. There we go. If you can't see it now, then there's not that much more I can do about it, I think. I think you can best see it here on the tip of the lateral sepal. So that's a really nice feature, I think, of it. And the other thing I really like about these flowers is the column, actually, or what I sometimes call the nose. Which is that you have this nice little gradient that really goes from that really dark maroon red to this nice sunset orange / yellow. And this gradient just looks really nice to me. The lip is interesting, it's kind of pinched. So the lip is kind of pinched together, like it's a very narrow lip. You can see the two calices are like super drawn together, which usually happens in my other Phalaenopsis when the blooms are about ready to start dropping. So I'm constantly worried that these flowers are going to drop, but they seem to just open, drawn together like this. The smell, by the way, of this plant is amazing. It's... how do I describe it? It's kind of like... It's minty, but it's florally, and it's also a little bit of cinnamon in there as well. So I'm pretty sure one of the parents is... Oh yeah, of course it's parents of Violacea, I just showed you this. But it's a really nice little mix, actually. And the other thing I really like about this orchid is how the blooms contrast with the leaves. Like, the leaves have this really nice light green lime color. And then the blooms have this really dark red, and it just really contrasts fantastically together. Next is my Phalaenopsis gigantea hybrid, which used to be a no ID, but then I messaged the owner of the orchidarium and he remembered that it was a gigantea cross with Violacea, which makes it a Mok Choi Yew. So this is a Mok Choi Yew, and it's a little bit difficult to film because it's facing downwards quite a lot, but I've kind of positioned the camera underneath the bloom, so you should be able to see it quite well. And the main thing I really like about this flower is the hot pink. The coloration is just really, really great in my opinion. The dotted or striped patterning is something I usually am not that fond of. But in this case, because there's so much of it and it's joined so close together and kind of like merged in some places, it forms more of a whole instead of individual stripes and dots. And somehow that's a lot better to me. I really like the way it looks. And beyond that, I'm in love with the flower shape. I tend to really like the ones that are kind of like more elongated downwards and just more tapered. It looks more wild to me, and it's just a lot more pleasing than the more general round shaped Phalaenopsis. So all in all, I really, really, really like this orchid. And to top it off, it has a fantastic fragrance. It's very perfumey. It's kind of florally and has this hint of cinnamon in there, but mostly it's just really florally and very, very perfumey. It's not that strong. It won't fill your entire room, but if you get close to the bloom and smell it, you can definitely detect the fragrance. I really like this one. I think it's one of my favorites. The main drawback of this orchid, however, is its size. Let me draw back a bit and zoom out to show you. So the leaves can get humongous on this plant, which is a trait inherited from the gigantea, I'm quite sure. It's called gigantea for a reason, guys. And I'll just demonstrate with my palm. If I put my middle finger at the leaf joint, see, this leaf is larger than my entire hand, and I have pretty big hands. So, oh, actually we have the measuring tape. I can show you more quantitatively, science. So from 100 to 77, so that's, oh God's math, 23 centimeters across this leaf. So, you know, it's not unusual for orchids, but as far as my Phalaenopsis are concerned, it really is one of the bigger ones. So that's something to keep in mind if you get this beautiful, 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 beautiful plant. The next one in bloom is Agathacetum Penang Jumbo Sweetheart, which is one of the new orchids that I got from the orchidarium. Now, I'm filming this before I'm filming any of the other What's in Bloom video orchids, because I accidentally dropped this. The flower spike got too heavy, and as you can see, some of the flowers ejected their pollen, which means that they're already fading. Some of them are still good, and will stick around for a little longer. But I figured that before the flower display is completely ruined by the fading blooms, I'd film it really quickly because they're closing up quite fast. And for this one, I really like the really broad lip on the flower. And the kind of wine-stained, blood-stained almost color of them. And then you have that little throat. Let me see if I can focus on it. It just has a little bit of detail down there, which I really like. The scent hasn't quite matured yet, but it smells a little bit like bubblegum almost, and there's something citrusy about it as well. But I remember from the Orchid when I was there, it smelled really good. I just somehow can't remember how it smelled. But it's really quite interesting. I don't have any other flower with this kind of scent, which makes it a nice little addition to my collection. Okay, I actually managed to get all of the flowers in one frame. So here you can see once again, I'll quickly go through and name them all one more time. This one is the Phal bellina. This one is a no ID that looks like the KS Happy Eagle, so that's what I'm going to call it, but it's not actually the KS Happy Eagle, potentially. This one is the Phal Samera. This one is the Phal Mok Choi Yew. This is the Phal Valentinii. And this here is probably the Procatifola Golden Peacock, but it's labeled LBL Golden Peak. I go from class and Orchid if you want the exact same one. So yeah, as you can see, I have a lot of Phalaenopsis. It's definitely one of my favorite genuses. I only have one Cattleya, which is the one you see in front of you now, unless the Laelia harpophylla has been reclassified to Cattleya. I don't actually know that. And you can expect a lot more Phalaenopsis blooms from me in the future, mostly the Polychilus type or the summer bloomers. But I also have numerous Catasetinae, which I really enjoy. And right, so that's one I couldn't put in this frame. The Catasetum Penang Jumbo Sweetheart has already wilted by the time I finished filming this. I filmed its segment before I filmed all of this, and it's now already pretty much gone. I can show you what's left of it. You see? It's all just a wilted mess now. I'm a little bit disappointed about it actually. Like, it was blooming properly, like with full open flowers for maybe 5 days before it started to wilt. Now I know the Catasetums have short-lived flowers, but I really thought it would at least last a week. And this is, you know, it's a little bit disappointing, but nevertheless the blooms are stunning and I really like the growth habit of the Catasetums as well, so I'm still gonna keep it. But, you know, they just don't measure up in that way with the Phalaenopsis, especially the summer blooming ones, which can bloom for months and months and months. And they really, with their thick, glossy blooms and their bright colors, I really do think they actually are my favorite genus. So sorry for all the Phalaenopsis haters, but you're going to be seeing a lot of those on my channel. And maybe you'll even grow to like them. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed my very first What's in Bloom video. Maybe you saw something you like, in which case I've mentioned all the IDs, so you can go out and find it, or you can ask me where I got it if you like. And hopefully I'll have lots of other new pretty blooms for you next month. One of my Catasetums right now is spiking. It's, well, the Cycnodes. It's a Cycnodes Blind Delight and it's currently in spike, so that should be in bloom for next month. And on top of that, my Unseeing Twinkle is pushing out spikes with excruciating slowness. So maybe next month, maybe in half a year, we'll see. And that's all that I have actively spike at the moment. So next month might just be largely repetition of this month's Phalaenopsis orchids, plus a Catasetum in there, or Cycnodes. But we'll see. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a great day.